Display flashing. Distress signal. Priority. Extinction level. Origin. Abandoned satellite KX-91. Location. Dead orbit. Grathar 7. Access level. None attached. Message. Hybrid code. Translation. Impossible. Trey Vorn adjusted the controls of the Nightwing, his modified freighter built for smuggling Xeno artifacts. Red lights flared across the panel. The repeating distress signal crackled, distorted, almost alive. "This smells like bait," he muttered. He flicked a switch, locking in the trajectory. But he didn't change course. The ship trembled as it exited hyperspace. Before him, the KX-91 satellite floated like a metallic corpse, not spinning, not transmitting, just silence. Then the Nightwing pinged. Life detected. No atmosphere, no power, but life. Trey docked the ship in the satellite's hangar bay with surgical precision. The side hatch cracked open with a vacuum pop. Zero atmosphere. His helmet sealed tight with a hiss. Rifle up. Oxygen. 22 minutes. Dark corridors. The place looked like a lab, but not Federation clean. This was patchwork, cannibalized from multiple species. Mir quantum panels, Vulgari coolant tubes, human structural welds, unholy Frankenstein tech. But Trey didn't stop for the broken pipes or drifting frost vapor. He stopped for the sound. Thump, thump, thump. A rhythmic, metallic pounding, coming from behind a sealed plasma door. Access code corrupted. Override. Yes, no. Trey paused, then typed, yes. The magnetic locks hissed, disengaging. The door creaked open. Inside, a containment cell. Thick, nearly opaque glass. Movement behind it. He stepped closer. He saw her. The alien female was chained. Not with cuffs, with gravitational hooks dug into the carapace along her spine. Still, she tried to stand. Her 4 pitch-black eyes locked onto him, skin opalescent, scarred with circular markings. Surgical marks. She growled, not threatening, but pleading. Thump. Not from her. Trey turned. A side panel. Scratched. Clawed. In human letters. Help. She has children. Trey's pulse spiked. The alien didn't move. She only stared, then pointed with one restrained finger up. He followed her gaze. A ventilation shaft. Tiny slits. Eyes. Watching. 4 pairs. Children. But something was wrong. The irises were half human. Trey activated his neural scanner. The children weren't leaving. But they were alive. Their DNA signatures, unreadable. Off charts, neither fully human nor fully alien, hybrids. The alien growled again and spoke. For him. Her voice cracked the silence like shattering glass. Trey tried the translator. No match. Didn't matter. He understood the tone. She was begging. Alert. The Nightwing blared a proximity warning. Incoming vessel detected. Class, Military Interceptor, Genetic Registry, Nephorus Corporation. Trey backed up, looked at the cell again, then at the vent. The children were gone. The alien stared at him, unblinking. What the hell are you? Trey whispered. He stepped back. Then the floor vibrated. A panel on the cell wall lit up. DNA match confirmed. Authorized access. Human. Code. T. Vorn. He froze. What? The cell opened. Hooks snapped free with a wet metal sound. The alien collapsed to her knees. Didn't attack, just breathed. From the vent, the children dropped down, silent. 3 of them. 2 were alien hybrid, but the third was human, black-eyed, and she spoke. Father. Trey couldn't breathe. Helmet warning. Oxygen low. 4 minutes remaining. Nephorus Interceptor. 60 seconds to dock. DNA match confirmed. Containment protocol initializing. The satellite systems began to blink. Parental protocol activated. Genetic heritage. Incomplete transfer. He didn't understand, but the restraints dropped. The alien gathered the children, shielding them, and Trey remembered. That night on Aurealis Prime, the lab, the transaction, the embryos. He had sold something to Nephorus, something biological. And now, They were alive, and calling him father. The interceptor arrived. Trey turned, raised his rifle, aimed at the hatch. He wasn't a hero, never had been, but something primal, something older than memory, burned inside. He wasn't letting anyone touch that mother, or her children. She wasn't moving. The alien mother sat slumped against the wall of the shattered cell, arms around the children, breathing shallow. Her limbs trembled with micro-seizures from prolonged neural restraints. Skin cracked, pupils dilated unevenly. But she was conscious, and her gaze stayed locked on Trey. He lowered the rifle slowly. The smallest child, clearly the most human, stayed beside her, clinging to her leg. Black irises, pale skin, hair like spun copper. She looked no older than 5, but there was awareness behind her eyes, a deep, unsettling calm. "You said, Father?" Trey asked, voice muffled through his visor. The girl blinked. "That's what the records say. Sequence 47T. Gen Batch, Vorn." Trey staggered back. That wasn't a name. That was a Nephirus internal classification. A DNA imprint. They'd used him. Cloned? No. Replicated via genetic graft. A long-term experiment. He remembered the fee. Big money. All under the table. Anonymous biological contributor, they called it. He thought it was for tissue research. It wasn't. Behind him, a klaxon blared. The Nephirese ship had docked. Magnetic locks clamped. Countdown initialized. Trey's HUD flashed warnings in red. Boarding party incoming. Estimated contact, 90 seconds. He turned to the alien mother. "Can you move?" She shook her head once, slowly. Her mouth opened, lips split from dehydration. She hissed something low. The translator couldn't decode it, but one word parsed: sanctuary. The children moved together, lifting her, not carrying, stabilizing. Their limbs moved with uncanny synchronization, jointed wrong. Bone structures he didn't recognize. Nephirus had spliced them with something beyond human, beyond her species, too. The girl looked at Trey again. "You have to get us out. If they retrieve her, they'll restart the program." "What program?" The girl said nothing, just touched the side of her neck. Under the skin, Trey saw a faint glow. Implant. Biomemory storage? Tracking. No time. Trey led them through the corridor. Oxygen tanks dropping. His ship was still on standby, but if Nephirus breached, the lights above flickered. EMP pulses. They're inside. The alien mother stumbled, knees buckling. One of the hybrid boys, slightly taller, skin like obsidian and iridescent, caught her and hissed. His mouth split open sideways. Trey froze. "Wait, what the hell are you?" The child looked at him, confused. "We're yours." The hallway shook. Plasma bolts scorched the far wall. Trey turned. 3 black-armored Nephirus enforcers stormed through the entryway, rifles raised. "Get down!" he shouted, pulling the mother into a side junction. He dove forward, firing in full burst mode. Plasma rounds ricocheted. One shot took out an enforcer's shield, then his head. The second ducked, rolled, aimed. But the hybrid girl was already moving. She jumped onto the wall, stuck to it, then launched off like a spring-loaded missile. Her fingers extended into claw-like points. She hit the soldier with full impact, screamed. Then silence. The third enforcer turned to run. Trey didn't let him. One shot through the spine. Clean. When he looked back, the girl stood over the corpse, breathing fast. He stared at her. "You were trained." She shook her head. "We were built." Trey couldn't look away. These kids weren't normal. They weren't even born. They were designed. Combat efficient. Infiltration capable. Nephirus hadn't just made hybrids. They'd made weapons. They reached the airlock. Trey punched the override. The door opened to the night wing, still sealed, engines hot. "Get her aboard," he ordered. The boys carried the mother in. Trey hesitated, then turned back to the corpses. He scanned the bodies, Nephirus encryption tags, mission logs, external cams, full evidence trail. He He triggered a self-destruct on the cell deck, then followed them into the ship. The hatch sealed behind him just as Nephirus reinforcements breached the outer corridor. Plasma fire slammed against the hull. The Nightwing lifted, engines screaming. Trey hit the thrusters. The ship burned out of the docking bay, scraping the hangar edges, ripping through the exit tunnel just as the KX-91 satellite exploded behind them. The debris cloud shimmered in the rear display. Then silence, except for breathing. Inside the Nightwing's medbay, the alien mother lay on the diagnostic table, barely stable. The children stood nearby, surrounding her like sentries. Trey stood over them, rifle still in his hands, his mind fractured between questions. "What do I call you?" he asked the girl. She hesitated, then said, "Kyle." He looked at the others. "And them?" "They don't have names, just numbers." "Not anymore," Trey said. "That ends now." Kyle tilted her head. "Why are you helping us?" He didn't answer immediately. He looked down at his own arm, where the Nephirus DNA injector had been placed, years ago. The scar was still there. He thought it was gone. "I signed something I didn't understand," he said. "That mistake ends here." Kyle walked to him, reached up, touched his shoulder. "You're not the only one they used." Behind her, one of the boys suddenly froze, eyes wide. The ship's AI pinged. Foreign signal detected. Genetic beacon active. Nephirus tracking initiated. Kale turned. "They marked us." Trey ran to the console, began typing. "We'll lose them in the Kuiper shadows. But we need to dump the beacon." "We can't," Kale said. "It's under her heart." Trey turned to look at the alien mother. Her body convulsed in microspasms. Life support couldn't suppress the destabilization. If he didn't act fast, she'd die. He made a decision. To save her, he'd have to do surgery. Now. He activated the autosurgeon, slid her onto the bio table. The kids backed away, watching, silent. AI, scan for implant cluster. Located, depth, 7.2 centimeter. Composition, titanium organic weave, integrated with cardiac wall. Extraction risk, high. Mortality, 64%. He looked at Kale. "She's your mother. It's your call." Kale stared at the table, then at Trey. "She's not my mother," she said. Trey blinked. "She's all of our mother." Kale continued. "But she didn't birth us. She protected us." Kale stepped closer. "But you made us." Trey's hands shook. "I didn't mean to." Kale nodded. "I know. But you're here now." That was all she said. Trey swallowed hard. "Begin extraction," he said. The AI chirped. Robotic arms descended. The ship sealed into medical lockdown. The process began. Trey turned to the hybrids. "We've got incoming. Nephirus won't stop, not until they recover you." Kale didn't flinch. "Then we don't let them." Trey loaded his rifle, checked the shield integrity, burned the drive logs. He wasn't just smuggling anymore. Now, he was running with something priceless. A mother, 3 children, and a secret that could destroy a megacorp. Trey stood outside the medbay, staring at the sealed door as the autosurgeon worked. The hum of the machines behind the reinforced glass pulsed in sync with the ship's stress monitors. She was still alive. But for how long? He didn't know. Inside that woman's chest was a biotech beacon built by the most ruthless genetics corporation in the Orion arm. Nephirus didn't create things to last. They created things to be owned. He turned, slowly, to face the 3 children in the hallway. They were watching him, silent, patient, calculating. Kale stepped forward first. "She'll survive. Her system is correcting." Trey nodded. "That's the best news I've had in a while." Then his gaze landed on the other 2. One boy had iridescent skin that shimmered under the overhead lights, shifting hues in time with his breath. The other looked eerily human, except his pupils were vertical slits, and his bones moved too fluidly, almost boneless, like something grown, not born. Trey crossed his arms. "You said you were built, not born. What does that mean?" Kale didn't answer. Instead, she reached into a pouch strapped to her waist and pulled out a data crystal. She handed it to him without a word. Trey inserted it into the ship's core display port. Nephris Research Log, Nunner 47T. Vorn Protocol. The screen filled with a cold, sterile report. Dates, test groups, failure percentages, cross-species grafting metrics. Each one labeled with Trey's genetic code as the control baseline. Trey Vorn was the primary donor for Project Vorn, a black classified Nephris initiative designed to merge human neurological flexibility with alien adaptive physiology. Subject success rate 0.8%. 3 survived. Kale. Subject K3X. The 2 boys, R7Y and D9N. No names, no designations beyond serial tags, no empathy in the logs. Just numbers, functions, and combat performance results. Then the next log played. Parental seed shows increased bonding response from hybrid units. Test hypothesis. Exposure to donor may stabilize anomalous behavior. Trey stepped back like he'd been punched. They used me to imprint you. Kale's voice was quiet. They made us crave you, because you're the missing algorithm. He sat down. Hard. The hum of the ship surrounded him like a cage. They turned my DNA into a command key. Kale crouched beside him. They made us to follow you. But that doesn't mean we want to. You haven't earned that yet. The words landed like knives, not out of cruelty, but truth. Trey looked into her eyes and saw it. The expectation, the hope, the choice she was offering him. He nodded. Then I'll earn it. The moment passed. Then the ship's alert system chimed. Warning. Interstellar relay ping detected. Nephris probe signature. Trajectory. Intercept course. ETA. 3 hours. Trey stood. They're tracking us again. Kale's head tilted. I thought the beacon was removed. He checked the medbay display. The mother's vitals were steady. The beacon was gone. Burned. But the ship's AI overlaid a secondary signal. Genetic marker signature. Active. Kale's expression darkened. It's not in her. Trey realized. It's in you. Kale didn't flinch. They built a failsafe. Each of us emits a low-level genetic ping. Not enough to triangulate from long range. But up close, if a probe gets within a few million kilometers, they lock on. Trey activated the nav panel, brought up the star map. No nearby asteroid fields, no storms, nowhere to hide, unless... He narrowed in on an unmarked sector, G-null expanse, a blank space. Off limits. What's that? Kyle looked, blinked twice. I don't know. The boys stepped closer. The iridescent one, R7Y, tapped the panel. That region is blacked out on Nephris maps. They call it Zone 0. Even their ships avoid it. Why? Because no signals come back. Trey leaned in. A dead zone. No comms, no scans. A perfect place to vanish. Or to die. Kyle said it first. We should go there. You sure? I'm sure it scares them. That was enough. Trey locked in the coordinates. The Nightwing prepped for quantum burn. The ship groaned from the strain. She wasn't built for this level of stealth jump, but he didn't care. The second the engines fired, everything outside blurred into star-laced darkness. He turned to Kale. When we land in there, I want answers, not just what they did to you. I want to know who she is, the mother, why she called for me. Kale hesitated. She didn't. Trey froze. What? She didn't send the distress signal. I did. He stared at her. I rerouted the signal from the satellite core. I encoded it in hybrid dialect. I wanted you to find us. You knew who I was. We knew your name, your DNA, your file. We had one chance to escape, and we knew only one human might still care. Trey's throat tightened. Why didn't you tell me? Because if you said no, I needed a way to make you say yes. He looked away. And if I say yes now? Kale met his gaze. Then we stopped running. Before he could reply, the ship rocked. Hard. Alert. Quantum field disruption. External anomaly detected. The Nightwing dropped out of quantum space violently. Before them stretched a black expanse. Not stars, not void. Something else. like a sea of frozen darkness that moved. The nav panel blinked. No readings. Trey tried the sensors. Nothing worked. Kale and the others stood still. The air inside the cockpit thickened. And then, a light. Small. Pulsing. It wasn't from the ship. It came from Kale's chest, and then, from the others, like a synchronized heartbeat. Outside the ship, the darkness responded. It rippled, then formed shapes, massive, ancient, not ships, not creatures, something in between. Kale whispered, "They're waking up." Trey whispered back, "What are they?" She turned slowly. "They're what Nephris was trying to copy. And now, they know we're here." The ship was silent. Trey gripped the controls of the Nightwing, knuckles white, breathing shallow. Outside the viewport, the darkness shifted, not empty, not void, alive. It pulsed like a lung in slow motion. Massive shapes moved just beyond visual certainty, vast, ancient, and watching. The hybrid children stood still, their bodies glowing with soft pulses of light, not emitted from tech, but from within. Bioluminescent rhythms, resonating with the anomaly outside. Kyle didn't blink. "They see us." Trey spoke low. "What are we looking at?" "The Forgotten," she said. The words chilled him more than the cold vacuum outside. They were the first, the ones Nephris found buried under the crust of Thal-17. Not dead, just dormant. When they tried to extract the genome, it didn't stay dormant. Trey's eyes darted. "You're telling me Nephris stole DNA from that?" "From one of them. A fragment." Kale stepped closer to the viewport. "But they didn't understand it. They tried to decode something that wasn't meant to be separate from its source." Trey stared outside. The shapes were converging, not aggressively, more like gathering, waiting. He turned back to Kyle. "And you, are you connected to them?" Kyle didn't answer with words. She raised her hand, and one of the shadows beyond the ship mimicked the gesture. Trey's stomach dropped. "They're answering you." "It's not language," she said. "It's resonance. Frequency bonding. They recognize me, us." The two hybrid boys stood beside her, silent. Then the smaller one whispered, "They're calling." Trey turned to the console. "They're interfering with our systems. No navigation, no drives, no comms." Kale's voice was calm. "We're in their space now. We don't control anything." A low rumble vibrated through the ship's hull. Not damage, communication. Then the lights cut. Pitch black. For 2 seconds. Then a presence filled the cockpit. Not a body, a voice. Inside his head. "The stolen seed returns." Trey staggered, clutching his skull. Fragmented, deformed, but alive. Kyle's breathing slowed. She knelt. The boys followed, submissive. Trey dropped to one knee, head spinning. "What is this?" Kale looked up at him, her face glowing. "They are testing if we belong, if we are still theirs. And if we're not?" Kale didn't answer. A second pulse hit them. Harder. Like a sonar ping that passed through the soul. Trey felt it burn behind his eyes. Memories not his own. Worlds shattering. Species torn apart. Silence louder than war. He gasped, fell forward. But then, another pulse. Softer. Centered on the alien mother, still unconscious in the medbay. The cockpit lights flickered back on. The ship vibrated. External interference. Gone. The darkness outside receded. Kale stood. She passed their test. Trey blinked. "What test?" "She carried us, gave part of herself for something outside their design. That's what they couldn't do. She changed the code. The Forgotten had judged her not by purity, but by sacrifice." Kale turned. "We have to leave. Now. Before they change their minds. But the engines are offline." Kale moved to the console, placed her glowing hand on the ship's core. The lights surged. Engines roared. Trey jumped into the pilot seat. "Whatever you're doing, don't stop." "Not me," she said. "Them, a gift." The Nightwing surged forward, powered by something far beyond fusion or antimatter. They ripped out of Zone Zero like a comet, burning through folds of space that didn't exist on any map. Back into real space. Behind them, the Forgotten vanished into the void once more. Trey exhaled for the first time in minutes. But the reprieve was short. The moment they stabilized, the proximity alarm blared. Nephris Intercept Fleet, ETA, 12 minutes force composition, 1 flagship, 5 escort destroyers, 3 hunter drones, objective, terminate and retrieve. Kale stared at the data. They've sent everything. Trey turned to her. Because of you. She looked down. No, because of you. The console blinked. New broadcast signal incoming. Nephris priority transmission message level, red class. Trey frowned and accepted it. A woman's face appeared on screen. Cold, efficient. Nephris brass. Hello, Mr. Vorn. He didn't respond. I'm Director Melee. You've interfered with a classified operation involving proprietary intellectual assets. You are harboring genetic property belonging to the Nephris Corporation. Trey's voice was ice. They're children. They're weapons, she corrected, unauthorized and dangerous. I seem to remember my DNA being part of this. That makes me part owner, doesn't it? You signed it away. I'm signing it back. Her expression tightened. This is your only warning. Turn over the subjects. Destroy your logs. Return to Nephris space. You will be compensated. Kale stepped into view beside him. Tell her we're not going back. Trey smirked. You heard her. The director leaned closer to the camera. You've sealed your fate. The transmission cut. The ship's AI chirped. Locked target. Enemy fleet in firing range in 9 minutes. Trey looked at Kale. Any more gifts from your ancient space gods? She shook her head. No miracles this time. Good, he said. I prefer doing it the hard way. He activated the ship's defense matrix. This freighter's not a warship, but I've got 3 hidden turret arrays, 2 EMP torpedoes, and a hacked Nephris command override key I've been saving for a rainy day. Kyle raised an eyebrow. Planning on dying today? Not if I can help it. The hybrid boy with the iridescent skin stepped forward. I can take one of the drones. Trey blinked. You've never flown anything. The boy smiled. That you know of. Kale followed. We were trained in simulators. They taught us because they assumed we'd always obey. Trey opened the hangar bay. Then let's prove them wrong. The 3 children boarded escape pods, reconfigured for short-range strikes. The ship's AI linked their signatures to the defense grid. Trey took the main chair. All right, family, let's give Nephris hell. They moved into position. Behind them, the stars aligned like fate. The night wing spun hard into evasive maneuvering. Ahead, space lit up with the cold gleam of incoming fire. Nephris flagship, Obliterator class, bristling with plasma batteries, drone swarms, and hunter missiles. 5 escorts in tight formation. 3 Predator drones in loose orbit. Scanning for escape vectors. Overkill. But Nephris wasn't just here to retrieve assets. They were here to erase a mistake. Trey Vorn keyed open the comms. All units, engage on my mark. 3 beacons blinked in formation behind him. Each pod piloted by a child. No, not children. Weapons of genetic warfare built from his DNA and the essence of something older, something alien. But today, they were his crew. Kale's voice came through first. I'm targeting the drone on Intercept Vector 1. The iridescent boy, R7Y, cut in. Charging EMP spike. The other, D9N, didn't speak. He never spoke. But his pod systems lit up with targeting data more precise than anything Trey had seen, even in elite combat sims. The enemy drones moved in first. Like sharks, Kale's pod peeled away, tumbling end over end, dodging the first Seeker missile by a meter. Then she rolled beneath it and shot upward, one sharp pulse of her retro thrusters sending her directly into the blind spot of the drone. Her pod vanished in a flash of white. Trey's heart slammed. Then, Drone 1 neutralized. Kale's voice returned, calm, controlled. I'm fine. R7Y launched next. His pod surged forward on a vector that made no tactical sense. Until Trey saw it, he wasn't attacking the drone. He was aiming for the missiles. His pod smashed into one. The chain reaction caught two more. A sonic pulse detonated from his pod's nose, disrupting the drone's tracking systems. Two fell out of formation. Kale finished them. Trey opened up the Nightwing's hidden turrets, bringing the big guns online. 4 autocannons rotated from under the hull. Twin EMP torps armed. One final ace, the stolen Nephirus command override key. He had one shot. Trey locked onto the lead destroyer and fired the override code. The destroyer stopped. Cold. Its systems rebooted, its weapons powered down. The other ships swerved, confused. Kale's voice again. That got their attention. Good, Trey growled. The flagship loomed into range and fired. A lattice of plasma raked across the star field, hitting the Nightwing's shields at 78%. Sparks flew. Interior systems screamed. Kyle shouted, "The flagship's deploying harpoons!" Trey saw it, massive grappling arms extending to disable them. He dove hard, rolling the ship. But the harpoon caught the tail. The ship shuddered. A warning blared. Hull breach imminent. Trey hit the manual release. Nothing. The harpoon's magnetic lock was too strong. "R7Y," he barked. "Can you get to the harpoon arm?" "I'll try." Then the boy's voice cut out. His pod had just been clipped. Spinning, losing altitude. "R7Y is out," Kale confirmed. "Still alive, but disabled." Trey swore. The grip tightened. Hull plates tore. Nephirus boarding ships were closing in. He looked at Kyle's signal, still moving, still free. "Kale," he said. "Yes. You know the core. I remember everything they taught me." He locked the controls and stood. "I'm going to draw fire." "Alone?" He looked over his shoulder. No one's alone anymore. Inside the mother's med bay. She stirred. Kyle stood beside her, watching the monitor. Her pulse had stabilized. The foreign implant was gone. But something had awakened inside her. The glow in her veins was spreading. Kyle leaned close. "They're going to take us." The mother's eyes opened. Pure black, but not empty. She spoke for the first time in a voice that echoed with more than one resonance. "No," she said. "They will remember us." Back in the cockpit, Trey released the final torpedo. It struck one of the approaching destroyers and tore it in half, but that wasn't the real target. He loaded the last code fragment into the override system. The flagship, the command core of Nephirus's elite AI systems, the nerve center of the operation. He sent it through the comm burst at point-blank range. For a moment, everything stopped. All systems paused. The enemy fleet hesitated. Then, the flagship turned on its own. One of its escorts exploded under friendly fire. "Kale, now!" Trey roared. Kale's pod fired directly into the harpoon bay. The explosion released the Nightwing, sending it spinning, free. Inside the med bay, the mother was no longer resting. She stood, and she spoke again, this time into every channel. Not through the ship, not through wires. Through them. Kale and the boys began to glow, bright, iridescent. Their bodies no longer restrained by human limits. From them erupted a wave, a frequency pulse, that tore across the battlefield. The enemy AI systems scrambled. Drones fell from the sky. The flagship's override core imploded from within, and then the Forgotten returned. Not in form, but in signature. A shape appeared on every sensor, bigger than anything in local space. Not a ship, not a creature. A reminder, a warning. Every Nephirus system went dark. Retreat signals flared, one by one. The fleet began to fall back, and the battlefield fell silent. Hours later, the Nightwing floated silently over a quiet moon. R7Y was recovering. D9N was building something in the engine bay. Trey didn't ask what. Kyle stood at the viewport, and Trey walked in with 2 cups. "Synth coffee," he said. "The closest thing this ship can make to something that tastes like Earth." Kale took it. "I don't know what Earth tastes like." "You will." She looked up. "You stayed." He shrugged. "You called me father. I figured I should try to live up to it." The mother sat nearby, watching, not speaking, not needing to. She nodded once. Trey sat down. So, what now? Kale didn't smile. Not really. But her eyes lit up. We go where they can't find us. And after that? She finally smiled. We raise hell.